Hey, you guys, what's going on? It's Friday. How's everybody doing? Let me say hi to you guys. Hi, Pointer Lover. Hi, Nature Rocks. Hi, Christine. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Rainbow Mom. Hi, Teacup Kraken. Hi, Rhiannon. I said hi to Tiffany. Hi again, Tiffany. If I didn't say hi. How is everybody? Ugh, what a week it's been. What a freaking week it has been. How was y'all's week? Mine was all right. A little bit hectic start to it. You guys were there. You know what happened. No need to rehash that business. And we lost Heels in the Air. And it's just been a rough week. And I am super behind on the Karen Reed trial. However, that's not what we're here to talk about. So good thing that it's not what we're here to talk about, because I sure am behind on it. Hey, Kathy, good to see you. But I am right on schedule with the Chad Daybell trial, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Is the his sister? So it's YouTube only lets you have so many characters in your title, and I didn't want a big, long, huge title. Hey, Petunia, good to see you. So what I did was I just kind of made it simple. Basically, Tammy's sister Samantha. She and her husband testified. So they are Tammy's sister and brother-in-law. But at first, when I started listening, I came in a little bit late, and I heard the prosecutor say brother-in-law, and I was like, oh my God, is this one of Chad's brothers? But it wasn't. So that's who it was. But he had an awful lot to say. He was, so, when Chad started it started out with book publishing, according to the brother-in-law's testimony. And we'll get to it. I just want to give you guys a little, as Pryor enjoys, he likes a foundation. So I'm fixing to give y'all some foundation. Basically, what he was testifying to was when this was when they still lived in Utah. They all kind of lived, near each other. And when Chad started publishing books, it wasn't really that big of a deal, but over time, his talking about near-death experiences really evolved from just being near-death experiences and talking about those to actually saying that he saw visions of things to come, events that have not, yet passed. And that, he had warned his Tammy's sister and brother-in-law that there was going to be this tremendous earthquake and their home would be in ruins. And so the place to go was, Rexburg, Idaho. And Tammy and Chad, they moved out there, obviously. I mean, we know, spoiler alert, they moved out there, but Chad was really trying to convince, his brother-in-law to come out there too. And he was like, nah, bro, I'm good. He went out there and visited, and he just, he said but I'm going to let him, tell you guys, and we'll listen to it. And then you guys tell me what you guys think, and we'll do all of that. I didn't mean to do that. Let me share the stream really quick. Oh, Rainbow Mom. What toe is it? All you can really do is tape it. That's all that you can do. Tape, ice, elevate, and take like Tylenol to keep the swelling down. There's not really anything you can do for a broken toe, but tape it. Let me put this on. I'm sorry you hurt your toe. I broke my pinky toe one time. I was taking my mom's luggage out of her suitcase out of the back of her expedition. And my mom, God love her, I miss her, but my mom packed, yet she was always under the weight. Not like, how they have the weight limit and then you have to pay extra, right, if you're over it. She was always right at the line. And she packed for every eventuality. God love her. Anyway, I was taking her suitcase out of the back of her expedition, and it was heavy as hell. And I kind of flung it. And when I flung it onto my foot, and I did it right on my pinky toe. And that shit hurt so bad. Hey, Music City Mom. Good to see you, babe. Yeah. So if it's your big toe, there's not really a whole lot that you can do for it. Like I said, you can tape it, and ice it and keep it elevated. And, I'm sorry that you hurt your little foot. I'm sorry you hurt your toe. That's awful. And it hurts so bad too. And you cannot do anything about it. Like there's nothing, All right. So I actually enjoyed this guy's testimony. I thought he was affable, and I thought he was telling the truth. I thought, like, what I liked about him the most is he would say, like, I don't know, I can't testify to that, but I also liked that he was able to convey in a way that wasn't super emotional. And I have to be honest, okay? I don't really deal well with people when they're emotional. It makes me very uncomfortable. I'm just not good at it, not good with it. It's just one of my flaws. So when there's a lot of emotional testimony, when somebody's actually crying or whatever, it's hard for me. And I kind of I might disconnect a little bit. But what I appreciated about Mr. Gwilliams is that he was able to convey how they were close as a family before all of this, and the shock of Tammy's death, then Chad's subsequent immediate marriage, and then getting a call from the cops, asking about LoriVallow's kids. Like, he was, hey, Allie, hey, babe, you want to come up? You don't have to if you don't want to. No pressure. I know that I know we like to talk about old Chad. So if you want to come up, let me know and I'll send you the link. But yeah, so I wasn't sure what you were doing tonight, and I didn't want to bug you because I knew you haven't been feeling that great. So I just wanted to be like, okay, I'm just going to leave her alone. Let her chill. Anywho, so yeah, that's what I appreciated about him. And so we're going to listen to this. It's about, 47 minutes, 29 seconds. And then I have this phone call, and then I have a little bit of Tammy's sister to listen to, and then we'll call it good. But before I forget and get really too far off into the woods and the weeds, you know how I do. For those of you guys that are in Patreon, I have some things that I want to talk about, and I put a post in there about it. And if you guys could let me know, like, what is a good convenient time to do Patreon, when you guys would like it, I would appreciate that, because I don't know when to do Patreon live. So if you guys could give me some suggestions, I would appreciate it. All right, so okay, babe, that's cool. You just chill out. So I'm going to speed this up a little, because it's kind of, I don't know, it goes a little slow. I'm going to let it play for a little bit, and then when Nestor needs out, and I got to take care of him. So he only likes to go outside at night when it's with me. So let me push play.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, counsel, the court made a determination that this particular witness is not subject to the court's exclusionary order, so you can inquire on direct, Mr. Wixon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, will you please state and spell your full name for the record?
My name is Jason Gwilliam, Jason Gwilliam.
And where do you live?
I live in Springville, Utah.
How long have you lived there?
I've lived there approximately 28 years.
Are you related to Chad Daybell?
I am related to Chad Daybell.
Can you tell the jury how?
I married Samantha Gwilliam, who is Tammy Daybell's sister, making Chad and I brother-in-laws.
How long have you been brother-in-law?
I married Samantha in 1995, so about 28 years.
During the time that you've been married to Samantha, have there been a number of years that you've lived around Chad Daybell and Tammy Daybell and their family?
Yes.
About how many years did you live in the same community as them?
When my wife and I were first married, we spent approximately 2 years, year and a half in Cedar City. And Chad and his family at that time were in Ogden. We moved into Springville. Well, I'm going to go on and say about 26 years. We moved into Springville in the winter of 96. And I think they moved in shortly after that in 97. So from 1997 until they moved to Idaho.
When did they move to Idaho?
Moved to Idaho in 2015.
So 18 years, does that sound right?
Yes.
When they moved to Springville, did you live in the same neighborhood?
When they first moved in, we actually lived across the street from each other. After that, sequentially, we moved around the corner. We were probably within a walk for that entire time.
Can you explain to the jury kind of the nature of the relationship? How often did you have interaction with Chad and his family?
We would have interaction with them. It wasn't uncommon for at least once or twice a week. In Chad and I's case, probably sometimes 3 to 4 times or more a week.
Did you go to the same church?
We did attend the same church.
Did you and Chad ever spend any time working together?
We did spend some time working together. Chad and I had opportunity throughout that time to share, I think, at least 3 shop spaces together. And previous to him moving up to Idaho, he and I worked together for 6 months before he went up there.
Could you explain to the jury, do you feel like you were someone who was close to Chad?
I feel like that Chad and I were very close.
Are you aware of any other friends during that time period that Chad had that were maybe closer even than you were?
He had friends from high school. He had other relatives that he had. But it probably wasn't as close as what we were, or I felt we were.
Being relatives and close friends, did you and Chad ever have one-on-one talks or conversations where you might confide in one another?
We had a lot of backing up. We have a lot of talks where we would talk about different issues with regards to family, with regards to religion, with regards to just about anything. And I felt like we had some really deep conversations in regards to a number of things, just as two good friends and brother-in-laws would.
Was there ever a time that Chad expressed to you any concerns about his marriage to Tammy?
I don't want to say concerns at that time, but you have your relationships that you have with your spouse, and there are times where you don't always get along. And so we might have discussed and talked about some of that.
Did Chad ever discuss with you his intimacy with Tammy, his wife?
There were times he did.
What in particular would he discuss with you about that?
Object at this point. This is isn't relevant.
Sustained.
Was there anything specific in your discussions with Chad that he explained if he had concerns about his relationship with Tammy?
Just in the fact that I think he felt like at times it was a little vanilla. It was a little bland.
What did he mean by, what did he say about that?
Just in certain aspects of the relationship, that it was just a marriage of just, we have a lot of routine, just general routine that we go through.
Did you and Chad share the same religious views, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, while he was in Utah, yes, we did.
Had Chad ever confided in you or shared with you any experiences that he may have had in La Jolla, California?
He did.
Can you explain La Jolla? Yes. Can you explain to the jury what did he tell you about that experience?
Said he had an experience that was a little life-changing in the fact that he was in the ocean. Large wave came in, a lot of rocks, smashed him against the rocks, chewed up his back pretty good. And it was one of those moments that you just don't forget.
And did he also share with you an experience that he had in Flaming Gorge, Utah?
Yes, he did.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. This is becoming leading.
Overruled.
Yes, he did.
What was that experience?
Another experience in his youth where he was jumping off cliffs, and as he hit the water, he felt that his spirit separated from his body and become torn from his body.
Is that something that he'd explained to you originally?
He had talked to me about that.
Judge, could we get some foundation as to time, date?
Sure. Can you let the jury know, when did these conversations occur? What year? approximately?
Conversations occurred early 2000s when we would have conversations about that.
And we'll get to it later, but was there a later time that you also discussed these?
We did discuss these later. Yes.
But in the early 2000s is what you're saying as to these two conversations,
Yes.
is that right?
I'm going to have you, Mr. Rickson, as well as you, Mr. Gwilliam, just please slow down a little bit and try not to talk over the top of each other for our record. Thank you.
Sure. At some point in time, did Chad's religious views change?
I believe they did.
Let's first explain to the jury, when did you first start seeing this kind of a change?
I would say at the time he started writing his books.
Can you pin it down to an approximate year?
If I were to put an approximate year to it, I would say 2006 to 2007.
In what way did his religious views change?
They became more focused, hyper-focused on preparing end of times, things of that nature.
When you use the word hyper-focused, what do you mean by that?
I think as a general rule, most people involved in our religion have a tendency to try to round out the religious information they receive. And in this case, by saying hyper-focused, I would say that it became more of an obsession and more than normal.
At any point in time, during this time frame, did Chad ever express to you a feeling that he had received visions?
He did.
And approximately when did he first start expressing that to you?
Probably around 2010, 2011.
What types of visions did he tell you that he was having?
They were visions regarding how things were going to play out in the last days.
At some point in time, did Chad again visit with you about this experience from Flaming Gorge, and La Jolla, California?
Yes, he did.
Did anything about the experiences as he shared them with you change?
Originally, there were experiences that you have that are impactful. They soon became near-death experiences as opposed to just something that was impactful.
Could you explain a little bit more about that to the jury as to what Chad would explain when he couched them as near-death experiences?
So originally, when the stories were told, it was an experience that happened, and then it became an experience that happened in La Jolla, where I had an experience where I saw a relative that had deceased and passed on. And then the experience in Flaming Gorge became my body and spirit were torn and the veil was ripped and I could see into the heavens and into the eternities.
Was there anything about that change that you were concerned by?
Yeah.
What was that?
That it wasn't consistent, that it just became more of a narrative now.
From that point forward, did you continue to see Chad's religious views change?
I did.
Okay, I just want to interrupt really quick because I forgot about this that I wanted to tell you guys today. So it reminded me when he said Flaming George instead of Flaming Gorge. Apparently, Julie Albert took the stand, I believe it was yesterday, and I don't know the actual detective's name that she or police officer's name that she was supposed to be saying, but she called the officer Bukaki. Y'all, I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. And I'm not going to, we're supposed to be seeing, we're supposed to be being serious. We're supposed to be, was it today, Kraken? Is that when it was? Oh my God. Dr. B came into the chat and was telling me about it. Now, just so y'all know, Dr. B's mom, Baka, that's what we all call her. She is very invested in the Karen Reed trial. Dr. B has gotten her on it. And I have begged Dr. B to have her mom watch that part and record it so that I can get her I want to see her reaction. I would love to have Baka up on panel. You guys would love her. She is so funny. And she's just, I love Dr. B and, so I love her sister and I love her mom. I knew her sister first, but that's not the point of the story. It just, when he said Flaming George today, and then it reminded me of Officer Bukaki. Because I think if I remember correctly, doesn't Turtle Boy call that officer that? Isn't that the nickname he gave to that officer? I feel like that's right, but I'm not sure. And now I kind of have regrets putting it out there like that. If that's not correct, Turtle Boy, I apologize. But yeah. I have to say this, Kathy. The only thing that I ever see Chad do is he only doodles or writes. I don't know what the hell he's writing. I guess it's a new list or a new rating. I guess everybody in the courtroom is going to be scored negative 4.2 dark or whatever the hell it is. But I will say I watched Chad off and on this after, watching him today during this testimony, and he sat mainly like this, like he gave nothing. And it was, yeah, that's what it is. His name's really something like Buknik or something like that. Yes. Or Bucknick or something. She said Bukaki. Yes. That's not how you spell it. You get Google it, and then you'll know why it's actually even more funny. Because yeah. It's like Bukahki, I think is how you spell it. Yeah. So hey Crafty Chris, good to see you. What's going on up here? Hold on a second. Crap, pointer lever. Let me see what happened to pointer lever. Oh, it's cloudy here. I'm hoping that it'll just blow through. I don't know. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Chad did not move at all. He sat like this pretty much the whole time. And I don't know. He always looks like, remember that Kids in the Hall skit where they would take their the pointer finger and their thumb and be like, I'm crushing your head. Look at me. Can you feel it? I'm crushing your head. That's what he looks like he's doing. Like he's trying to practice the Vader throat hug, I don't know. Or maybe he's trying to will the electricity to shoot from his fingertips. I don't know. He just doesn't move at all. And I can't. It's too much. Ugh, Chad. All right, here we go.
In what way?
It again started focusing more on end times. more on what would happen in America, what would happen with things in the future.
When did he first start expressing his views on those things?
That would have been around 2013, 2014.
And could you be a bit more specific about the nature of what he was telling you?
He got involved with other authors. They started to publish books and write books. They would talk about, in particular,
Judge, I'm going to object at this point unless there's some foundation that establishes how he knows this rather than this narrative.
She's talking about
Can you
Julie
just
Rowe
isolate your
prior,
comments to things that you heard directly from Chad?
Chad Daybell
which
told
prior
me there
knows.
would be 2 earthquakes that would happen. There would be the Wasatch wake-up quake.
And Judge, could I have some foundation as to when this discussion supposedly took place?
He's
Is
on-
that is that an objection?
That's an objection,
Prior-
Judge.
Overruled.
Let me just say this. Pryor is particularly crabby today, and he is just lashing out. Where are you at, Kimberly? We didn't get a storm where I'm at in Florida. I mean, it looked like it was going to, but we didn't get it. So I don't know I don't know if you're in Florida, but I thought we were going to get like storms. Hey, Lil Red. But yeah, Pryor's like big mad today. He's not, I don't know, somebody whizzed in his Wheaties this morning. I don't know what his damage is, but you know, he's always wanting to know about these, you know, times. When did he say this? When did he say this? Pryor, it has been well fucking established, sir, that Chad has had these ideas, you know, somewhere in the between 2011 vicinity, all right up until the day he got arrested. So I don't know why you want to stop, you know, why you're playing around and acting like you need some, you know, ooh, Lil Red got her hairs did. But yeah, like, come on, bruh, chill out a little bit, Pryor. Like, I get it. You know, you don't want your client to be put to death. I understand. You're doing what you're supposed to do, but you don't have to be rude about it. You know, I probably don't have to be rude, talking about how rude you are either, but here we are.
Go ahead, please.
These conversations started in 2013, 2014, and continued on until he left to go to Idaho and continued on past that.
And I think before we had an objection, I'd ask you to explain to the jury kind of the nature of the things he was telling you about his change in view.
I was informed that there would be earthquakes, that there would be destruction in America. I was informed that there would be invading troops that would come from various different countries into the Americas.
Did those views that he shared with you, did they cause you any concern?
Sure.
In what way?
Well, it's a fear tactic.
What do you mean by
Judge, I'm going to object. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
You may continue.
In my opinion, it's a fear tactic. It's a way to let people know I know more than you, and therefore you should listen to me.
Why did you perceive it that way?
I perceived it that way because when you bring up anything on a natural disaster, it has a tendency to create fear. When you bring in wars and rumors of wars, it creates fear.
Eventually, I think you said Chad and his family moved to Idaho.
Yes.
Unless you live in Florida, and then when that national or natural disaster is a hurricane, it just creates parties.
And what year was that again?
2015.
At the time that he moved, had he invited you to move with him?
He had.
Can you explain to the jury how that request went and why he was asking you to come?
Towards the end of 2015, he expressed his desire for my wife and I and family to move up to Idaho so that we could be in proximity with our families, with each other.
Did he say any more about that?
He felt that it would be good for us to move up there in order to escape the earthquakes and the desolation and the things that would happen in Utah.
What was he telling you about what it would be like in Rexburg?
He said that Rexburg would be a city of light, place of refuge, place that people would want to come to and be at.
And what was your reaction when he asked you to come up?
My curiosity at first was piqued because I wanted to know. I don't want to be in the middle of a giant earthquake. So naturally, I thought, okay, this is something that might be of interest.
Did you take stock in any of his visions? Did you believe any of those things?
Originally, yes, I did.
At that time, were you still embracing maybe some of what he was teaching?
During that time frame, yes.
So why did you eventually not move up to Idaho?
Didn't feel it was right.
Any specific reason why?
We'll get to your why in a minute. I have to say, okay, do I believe that there are people in this world that are sensitive, that are gifted in that way? Yes. Okay. I do believe that there are people like that. Samantha Dunn my mod, she has a channel. It's if you look on my page, it's under the channel section. She is one of those people. But it isn't like it's not. I don't understand why you would just take it on faith, like somebody that you've known as long as he. Yes, Allie. Yes. Chad wanted them all to be in Rexburg, because it's going to be the city of light. I don't understand that. Look, even if it was end times and they said to me, listen, Rexburg is going to be, Idaho is going to be the place to be, I'd be like, no, I'm going to take my chances. Okay. This is Tammy's sister's husband. So it's Chad's brother-in-law. Yeah. It's Samantha Gwilliam's husband, Jason Gwilliams, Tammy's sister's husband. Yeah. Hey, Melissa Jade. Good to see you, babe. Yeah. So, yeah, if they told me, and it's nothing again, I'm sure I don't want to offend any Idahoans. I'm sure Idaho is a lovely place. But listen, your girl is not a penguin, and I'm not built for penguin weather. I like it where it's warm. I like it where it's sunny. So I'm sure that during the end times, if Rexburg, Idaho was the place to go, I wouldn't be invited anywhere anyway. Because I'm a heathen, so I'd be going where it's nice and hot, if you know what I mean. All right. Ooh, Palm Beach County, you're on the other coast. Okay, that's fine. We'll go. We'll all go. It's been a while since I've been to the east coast of Florida. So yeah, get a little change of scenery. I don't know. But yeah, I don't understand all of this. I mean, I can understand listening to it, but I don't, listen, when somebody tells you there's going to be an earthquake and the earthquake doesn't happen, that's when I stop believing. Okay. The reason I believe Sam is because Sam told me something one time. She's told me many things, but the first thing that she ever told me was something that there's no possible way she would have ever known. She told me that my mom was very upset with me because she does not like me wearing jeans and flip-flops. And nobody would know that. My mom hated that look. And I know my mom would be upset that I wear that, but in Florida cannot make up its mind, even like in the wintertime. So while it might be cool enough to wear pants, right? It's not cold enough to actually put on socks and shoes. Okay. It's almost like year round, unless we get like a cold snap. And there's been a few times when I've had to wear socks. That's aside the point, but that is, one of those things. She's never said anything to me that didn't happen. Chad, here we go.
There were things that were going on that to me, it didn't feel right. We had opportunity to visit. Idaho's a beautiful place and a great place for some. It just, for us, wasn't going to be a place that we needed to be at.
Did you tell Chad no, you weren't going to move?
We did.
Did he ever ask you to come up again?
He did.
How often would he ask?
Are you looking specifics or generality?
Well, generality first, then we'll go to specifics.
Generality, just whenever we could. And we did go visit. We had opportunity to go attend family functions and events up there.
Did he ever ask again for you and your family to move to Idaho?
There was a letter that was written to me
When was that letter written?
in 2016.
And that was a letter from who?
That was from Chad.
What did he say in that letter?
In that letter, he essentially told me that we needed to be in Idaho.
Did he say why he believed that?
He said we needed to be in Idaho because within the next 3 years, there would be a giant earthquake, that Springville and my house would be shaken to the ground and destroyed, and that we needed to escape that destruction before that happened.
Did he claim that to be part of his visions?
Yes.
Did he say anything about concerns he might have had with your wife?
He did.
What did he say?
He'd informed me that she was allowed to go south and that the spirits, in particular the dark spirits, would allow her to go south to do whatever she wanted to do, but she was not able to come to Idaho to see the glory and the visions that would happen, and that she more or less was being held back.
What did you take that to mean?
I took that to mean that she was being controlled by dark spirits.
How'd you react to him telling you that or
I wasn't-
expressing that? Sorry.
I wasn't thrilled.
Why not?
Because I have a responsibility and a stewardship over my family. That's not Chad's responsibility.
Okay. Now, hey, Legendary, how's it going? Let me just say this. In a minute here, Mr. Gwilliams is about to read Chad for Filth, but like it's going to be a total church read, okay? And Allie, speaking of, let me just stop right now because you reminded me of something. If you're going to be watching the Northern Lights, because it's cloudy over here for you, girl, and if you can see them, if any of you guys can see them, if you guys will like video or take a picture or something and send it to me, I would so appreciate that. So I'm super bummed that it's going to be freaking cloudy here. Okay. How come I gotta know, Legendary, just on a side note, how come you refer to me this way? How come I watch you in chats because, we frequent the same places and I've never seen you any do that to anybody else, switch their name backwards. So, and I don't care that you do it. I don't mind. It's cute, but I just am curious why you do that. I just need to know this. Okay. All right. So, okay, if it is 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Pacific, that is 3 hours behind East Coast time. So that's 11 to 5 East Coast, 10 to 4 Central, and 9 to 3 Mountain. There you go. Look at me. All right, here we go. I actually like it. I like that you'd call me that.
Can you explain to the jury that word stewardship as you're using it? What do you mean by that?
When I'd say the term stewardship would be an ownership or a responsibility or a something of that nature. That is my duty and my job, my responsibility.
You just use the word ownership. You're not. Are you suggesting that you feel like you own your family?
I wouldn't say that I own my family, but I have a responsibility to them.
Is the idea of stewardship something that is mainstream for the LDS Church?
Yes.
Why were you offended by Chad's statements about your wife and dark spirits relative to your stewardship?
I felt that he was trying to take a stewardship over my family and trying to tell us what we needed to do and where we needed to be.
Did you express any concerns to Chad about that?
Not at the time.
Did you ever, I'll withdraw that. I think you explained that there were some times after they moved to Rexburg that you would come up and visit them.
Yes.
Was there ever a time that, I'll withdraw that. When you come to visit, what would Chad tell you?
He would, at that time, we didn't talk in depth about any of the different opportunities to come up there because typically there was another event going on. And he would just explain to me how nice it was and just talk about how things are going up there and that things were wonderful.
Did he ever explain any more about his visions of what was going to happen in Rexburg?
He did. He actually invited me to come up on a trip. I took a day trip, went up there and was shown around Rexburg, was taken to BYU, Idaho. I was taken to other various places throughout town.
Do you remember when that trip was?
That trip would have been in 2016. I think it was the spring.
And what kinds of things was he sharing with you as he took you around Rexburg?
He was showing me that this would be a place of city of light, that there would be a refuge for people to come, that it would be a safe haven, areas of where there would be tent cities, areas of where he would expand his property or take his property and turning it into a tent city.
At that point, did you continue to believe or at least be open-minded to his visions as you have been before?
That was probably the first time after I left that I thought, I'm not supposed to be here.
Any reason why you had that thought?
Just my gut feeling of who I am and what I was doing.
Did you ever express that to Chad?
I just told him that I wasn't going to be coming up. That wasn't for us.
Okay. So are we sensing a pattern here, a pattern of behavior? Anybody that disagrees or side eyes or doesn't immediately jump on board with Chad Daybell's plans, ideas, and thoughts is immediately must be controlled by dark spirits. It's not that Chad's ideas won't work for them. They don't make any sense. They are too close to season 2 Supernatural. None of that. No. They must be being controlled by dark spirits. Excuse me, I have hiccups a little bit. I mean, That's what I would say. No way, fool. That's what listen. I would have been scored off the charts dark if Chad and I ever had a conversation and he tried to now, I will say this. Back in the day when I was pregnant with Minnie Bindi, so this would have been 2005, like the summer of 2005. I did have some Mormon missionaries come to the house one day, really nice guys. And I was talking to them, and actually a lot of the things that they were talking about were rather intriguing to me. So after some visits, I decided that I would go and attend one of their churches, one of their services, which I did. And what they told me was, why don't you come and, attend church and see how you feel. If it's right for you, you will know. And I felt exactly like Chad Daybell's brother-in-law here. I just knew it wasn't for me. I had a feeling right the minute I walked in, and it's no knock against the Mormons. It just was not for me. The people there were incredibly nice. They couldn't have been more hospitable. They couldn't have been more welcoming, but I just knew this was not the place for me. And I feel like part of the reason it was not the place for me is because I ask way too many questions. Because I want to know the answers, and it just was not, I just didn't have a good vibe, and it just didn't feel right for me. And that's all, it's not, I guess, it is what it is, but yeah. So I understand what his brother-in-law is trying to convey here. All right, let's keep going, see what else we get to.
I want to stop here for a few moments and talk a little bit about Tammy. Could you just explain to the jury your relationship with Tammy?
I was Tammy's brother-in-law. I thought she was a sweetheart. She was a kind, gentle person that she really had a lot of people's best interest. She wasn't a saint. None of us are, but she was really, truly an amazing person that just loved people. And in particular, was one that would reach out to touch the individual in my.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's becoming a bit of a narrative.
Did you get any sense from your interactions with Tammy after they started planning a move to Idaho that this is something that she wanted to do?
Judge, objection, foundation.
I'm asking based on his observations in such honor.
Overruled.
From what I observed, she wasn't thrilled about going to Idaho.
What made you feel like that without speaking to anything she may have said?
Tammy was a gal that loved to be around her family and liked to be where she was in Springville and had a good relationship with my wife.
Did Tammy also have other family in Springville?
Yes.
Who else was in Springville?
She had cousins, aunts, nieces, and nephews. The majority of my wife's family was there.
And did your family, you and your wife, have a lot of interaction with these extended family members?
Yes.
Did you ever make any observations about the way Chad and Tammy interacted with each other?
I did.
What observations were those?
Some of the observations I had were that they were happy while they.
Hold up. I just have to make this little observation just briefly, and then I'll let him continue. Oh, well, thank you, Natasha. I appreciate that. Yeah, she's something else, that little mini Bindi. Anyway, I have to point out that they seemed happy together, but Chad was complaining to his brother-in-law over here about it being vanilla. Yikes. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with vanilla. I personally like vanilla. I don't, the flavor.
They were in Springville. They were a loving couple that were kind and nice to each other.
And did that change once they moved to Idaho?
Judge, I'm going to object unless there's some foundation as to how and
here
when he
we
observed
go.
the relationship personally.
Prior, I don't know why you're playing right now. You know when he's talking about, he's just testified to it. He's testified they spent a lot of time together, and that they even spent time together after they moved to Idaho, and he even said the year they moved to Idaho. Why are you playing out here in these streets prior? Yikes on bikes. Aw, Sam. Sam knows more, for sure. And I don't think he's referring to, how am I going to put this? Let me come up with a clever euphemism, Lil Red, and I'll get back to you. Because I don't think that was the issue.
Did you have any specific times that you came to Idaho that you observed Chad and Tammy together?
I did.
And when might some of those times have been?
We had opportunity to attend weddings of Chad's children together.
Do you remember approximately what years that happened?
I know there was one in 2018.
Did you make any particular observations in 2018 about Chad and Tammy's interactions with each other?
I felt their interactions were fine and appropriate.
After 2018, during 2018 up until Tammy's passing in 2019, to the best you can recall, can you tell the jury how often were you seeing Chad and Tammy, either in Idaho or Utah?
From what years, excuse me?
The last year of Tammy's life.
We had opportunity to interact with Tammy and Chad at a Christmas party in 2018. After that, the next opportunity that we had to interact with them was in the spring of 2018. They had an opportunity to come down or come to Utah for one of Chad's family functions.
Judge, before an objection, can I void your native objection?
Oh my
There's not any
God.
questions, so go ahead, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you.
Stop it.
Are there other contacts that you had in that last year that you haven't mentioned yet?
Other contacts that we had that I personally had would not be until Tammy's passing.
Hey, Jennifer, good to see you. I mean, bruh. Prior. Here we go.
So in the 2018 interaction, can you describe what that was?
Chad and his family came down, stayed at our residence. We had an opportunity to sit together in a hot tub with my wife, Tammy, Chad, and myself. Interaction was happening, but Chad seemed withdrawn.
What do you mean by that?
He wasn't engaging in the general conversation of the group.
Was that something that was abnormal for you guys when you visit together?
I noted it because it was different.
Did you notice that at the time?
I did.
Did you bring it up with anybody or with Chad?
I didn't bring it up with Chad. Didn't have an opportunity to. I noted it with my wife.
Were there any other interactions that you had in 2018 with Chad and Tammy?
Not that wouldn't be constituted as hearsay, so I would have to say no.
When did you first learn of Tammy's passing?
I was down home running errands. My wife called me and informed me that Tammy had passed away.
What was your reaction when you heard that news?
I was stunned.
Why were you so stunned?
I had seen Tammy 2 weeks prior, and it didn't seem that somebody of her age in her condition should have passed.
Where had you seen her 2 weeks prior?
Tammy came to my house and stayed with my wife and I.
What was the occasion?
On that occasion, she was coming down to visit family and parents.
And you noted that part of why you were stunned was because of Tammy's condition. Will you elaborate on that for the jury, please?
For what I had observed, she was healthy. She seemed happy. She didn't seem to have anything that would cause her to die. Not that I'm an expert in that.
At that point in time, had you noticed whether or not Tammy had put on any significant weight or lost any significant weight?
I did not feel she had changed.
What did you do once you were processing this with respect to hearing of Tammy's death? What was the next thing that you did?
I returned home and gave my wife a big hug. I was devastated, and you don't know what you can do at that time, but you want to do something. And I was in a position that I felt I could coordinate efforts between Chad's family up north, our family down south, our local church congregation. And so I went to work trying to help plan that while a lot of people were just hurting.
Did you plan that with Chad or did you plan it by yourself?
I didn't plan it. I helped coordinate.
At any point after you heard the news, did you talk to Chad?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I would say around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. I don't know the specific time
Of what day?
of October 19th, 2019.
Would that be the day of her passing?
Yes,
And when you say around 11 o'clock, would that be in the morning or in the
in the
evening?
morning.
Did Chad call you or did you call him?
I don't recall. I think I reached out to him.
What kinds of things did you and Chad talk about in that conversation?
We discussed getting in touch with a local mortician where we were at. We discussed getting in touch with the head of the congregation, just arranging the basic things that you would for a funeral.
What, if anything, did he say about his desire for the funeral?
Said he wanted to do it Tuesday, which was a little surprising to me.
Why?
I just felt it was very quick.
Did you talk about the circumstances of Tammy's death?
I asked him what had happened.
What did he say?
He said that he was woken up by her rolling out of bed and that she passed away.
Did you press him for further information?
I just had asked because you want to know what happened, and we talked about it, and the only answer he could give me is, I don't know. I don't know. I left it at that.
In that conversation, did he mention anything about concerns that Tammy had had with her health?
No,
Did he mention any specific ideas that he may have had about her cause of death?
he did not.
And later to that day, let me withdraw that. In that conversation, did the topic of an autopsy come up?
Okay, hold on, because I want to re-listen to this because I want to make sure I heard him correctly. He did say that Chad told him that Tammy woke him up falling out of the bed, right? Kate, this is Jason Gwilliams. He is married to Tammy Daybell's sister, Samantha. And so he is Chad's brother-in-law. But I also, the voir dire that Pryor was asking about, obviously I'm not an attorney, so I'd have no idea what it is. So what do I do when I don't know things? I go to the Googles. And the only thing that I can find about voir dire, and I'm just probably not Googling it right, I'll keep trying, is obviously voir dire pertains to the jury, right? But also you can do voir dire when you are proffering, when a witness is being proffered as an expert, and you can ask questions and you can agree or disagree. So yeah, I'm not sure what he was trying to do there with the witness. I have no idea because I put in what the closed captions. Well, we missed you too. So we're so glad you're back, Legendary. I don't know if the closed captions got it right because it said native voir dire, and I'm not sure what that, I don't think that that's what he said, but it is kind of similar to that. So I'm going to keep going, but I also want to put it back just a tiny bit because I remember him saying, hold on.
I left it at that.
In that conversation, did he mention anything?
Hold on.
They didn't, yeah.
All right, hold on. All right.
Should have passed.
Where had you seen her 2 weeks prior?
Hold on.
Tammy came to my house and stayed with my wife and I.
The transcript.
What was the occasion?
On that occasion, she was coming down to visit family and parents.
And you noted that part of why you were stunned was because of Tammy's condition. Will you elaborate on that for the jury, please?
For what I had observed, she was healthy. She seemed happy. She didn't seem to have anything that would cause her to die. Not that I'm an expert in that.
At that point in time, had you noticed whether or not Tammy had put on any significant weight or lost any significant weight?
I did not feel she had changed.
What did you do once you were processing this with respect to the hearing of Tammy's death? What was the next thing that you did?
I returned home and gave my wife a big hug. I was devastated, and you don't know what you can do at that time, but you want to do something. And I was in a position that I felt I could coordinate efforts between Chad's family up north, our family down south, our local church congregation. And so I went to work trying to help plan that while a lot of people were just hurting.
Did you plan that with Chad or did you plan it by yourself?
I didn't plan it. I helped coordinate.
At any point after you heard the news, did you talk to Chad?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I would say around 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. I don't know the specific
All
time
right, it's coming.
Of what day?
of October 19th, 2019.
Would that be the day of her passing?
Yes,
And when you say around 11 o'clock, would that be in the morning or in the
in the
evening?
morning.
Did Chad call you or did you call him?
I don't recall. I think I reached out to him.
What kinds of things did you and Chad talk about in that conversation?
We discussed getting in touch with a local mortician where we were at. We discussed getting in touch with the head of the congregation, just arranging the basic things that you would for a funeral.
What, if anything, did he say about his desire for the funeral?
Said he wanted to do it Tuesday, which was a little surprising to me.
Why?
I just felt it was very quick.
Did you talk about the circumstances of Tammy's death?
I asked him what had happened.
What did he say?
He said that he was woken up by her rolling out of bed and that she passed away.
Did you press him for further information?
I just had asked because you want to know what happened, and we talked about it, and the only answer he could give me is, I don't know. I don't know. I left it at that.
In that conversation, did he mention anything about concerns that Tammy had with her health?
No,
Did he mention any specific ideas that he may have had about her cause of death?
he did not.
And later to that day, oh, let me withdraw that. In that conversation, did the topic of an autopsy come up?
Not between he and I.
Did you get a different call later that day?
I did.
From who?
I got a call from Steve Schultz.
What was that in regard to?
Steve Schultz was the local mortician we were coordinating efforts with. And that was in regards to asking if I would assist him in retrieving Tammy and bringing her back to Springville.
Did you do that?
I did.
When did you do that?
We left the following morning, Sunday, early to go pick up Tammy.
Did you go straight to the house?
We first initially went to the Daybell residence.
Who was there?
There was what had happened.
What did he say?
He said that he was woken up by her rolling out of bed and that she passed away.
Did you press him for further information?
I just had asked because you want to know what happened, and we talked about it, and the only answer he could give me is, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting to me, the way that Chad phrased what he said, because okay, he's saying he woke up to her rolling out of bed, but that's really kind of a vague way. It's not very specific. Does that mean that he was in the bed with her and he heard her roll out of the bed? Does that mean he was sleeping elsewhere, as he has said to other people, and he heard her hit the floor? Like, what does that exactly mean? You see, that's, have to admit, interesting, old Chad Daybell. Not that I don't know. It doesn't matter. I mean, he's lied a bunch of different times. I'm just curious. What do you guys think that means? You know?
I left it at that.
In that conversation, did he mention anything about concerns that Tammy had with her health?
No,
Did he mention any specific ideas that he may have had about her cause of death?
he did not.
And later to that day, oh, let me withdraw that. In that conversation, did the topic of an autopsy come up?
Not between he and I.
Did you get a different call later that day?
I did.
From who?
I got a call from Steve Schultz.
What was that in regard to?
Steve Schultz was the local mortician we were coordinating efforts with. And that was in regards to asking if I would assist him in retrieving Tammy and bringing her back to Springville.
Did you do that?
I did.
When did you do that?
We left the following morning, Sunday, early to go pick up Tammy.
Did you go straight to the house?
We first initially went to the Daybell residence.
Who was there?
There was myself, Steve Schultz, both of Chad's parents, Jack Daybell, Sheila Daybell were there, Garth was there, and Chad was there.
Did you have any conversations at that point with Chad?
I did.
Did you make any observations about his demeanor or mood or any of those things?
My observation was that he seemed relatively normal.
What do you mean by that?
And the fact that we had discussions initially of, I'm sorry you lost her, and general greetings.
And why would that be? What was he doing that was abnormal to you?
The thing that was abnormal was I didn't witness a lot of mourning. I did see both and observe both parents upset. Garth and I had conversation in which Garth expressed him being upset. And I had asked Chad if he was okay, and he said, "No, I'm fine. I'm all cried out."
Did you continue to discuss funeral arrangements at that point?
Yes.
What kinds of things in terms of arrangements did you discuss with him?
Just when, where, what the timing would be, things that you would do with a funeral.
Was there anything about his demeanor in that exchange that stood out to you?
I would just say that it would just seemed off. And by that, I didn't feel like at the time, I didn't feel like it was normal when someone lost a spouse, but everybody does grieve differently. And so I didn't think any more about it beyond that.
Was there any more talk with Chad about the circumstances of Tammy's death at that point?
No.
Did you then, did you help Mr. Schultz remove the body and take Tammy to the
We
mortuary?
did. We went from there to the funeral home and picked up Tammy, placed her in the vehicle, and proceeded to head south.
Okay, maybe I missed something here, but what does he do for a living that he would be allowed to transport a body? Don't you? I mean, don't you have to? Can you just? I don't understand that. Okay, maybe he was. Maybe the funeral home director went with him, and so that's why. I don't. Maybe I missed that part, but I think that I thought it was a very astute observation from the witness to say that everybody grieves differently, because he is right. And I think that a lot of people, when they were around Chad in the days after Tammy Daybell was murdered, and up until her and through her funeral, that probably were like a little, he seems kind of off, off for Chad, right? Because these are people that know Chad. This isn't like me and you, you know. This is, these are people who know him. And I think most people were like, something ain't right, right? And they probably brushed it aside because they probably felt like, well, Chad's not super reactionary and he's kind of a quiet guy, and maybe that's the deal. And maybe he's doing all of his crying and, being upset, like, in private, no biggie. But I think for them, I think when he brought Lori around in 2 weeks after Tammy Daybell's murder, and for them, they didn't know at the time, but 2 weeks after Tammy Daybell passed away and her funeral, and boom, he's already married, which means that he was planning this. I think that's when people around him were like, bruh, All right, here we go. Let's finish listening to what he has. They only got like 17 more minutes, and then we're going to hear the calls.
Do you feel like at any point during that transport or the transport to Utah, did you get a chance to observe Tammy's body?
I didn't get a chance to observe Tammy's body before transporting. No.
Did you after?
After, I had an observation of just her area from the shoulders up to observe her face.
And when was that opportunity?
That was when we dropped her off at the funeral home.
Did you make any observations about her at that point?
I didn't make any observations other than I wanted to see if she would be or look appropriate enough that my wife might want to help do her hair and makeup.
After taking her to the Utah mortuary, do you recall, did you attend any viewings for Tammy?
I did.
Which viewings did you attend?
There were 2 viewings associated with her funeral. There was one that was on Monday night, and then there was one before the funeral Tuesday morning.
Did you have any interaction with Chad at the one the night before?
I made attempts. We didn't have a whole lot of exchange. He was busy. I was busy. And so I wanted to try to connect with him, but every opportunity I had, we just missed each other.
Was that necessarily unusual given the circumstances?
I don't feel it was unusual with the circumstances. No.
So is it fair to say at that point you didn't have any concerns about?
No, I didn't.
And then did you attend a viewing the following morning?
I did.
Did you interact with Chad at that point?
Maybe small talk, nothing substantial at that time.
Did you have a chance to observe him at that point as well?
I did.
Did you notice anything during that interaction that caused you any concern?
The family prayer, which is customary at a religious event that we have with a, a funeral, seemed a little off. He was really shaky and very unsure on his feet and almost just seemed different.
Could you expand on that? When you say off and different, what do you mean?
He was rocking back and forth and side to side and giving the prayer and not crying, but trying to cry was what I felt.
Did you hear the words of his prayer?
I did, but I couldn't recall them right now.
Anything besides what you just explained at the viewing that caused you any concern?
No, I did have a chance to observe Tammy in her coffin at various times, and she seemed at rest, peaceful.
And you attended the funeral.
Yes.
Did you make any observations about Chadder's behavior during the funeral?
During the funeral, I was watching one of their grandchildren in the back, and so I did not have opportunity to observe as much as I might like to, and so I did not.
And then after the funeral, did you attend, was there a family luncheon held?
There was.
Where was that held at?
That was held at the same place that we had the funeral.
Was that directly after the funeral or what time frame?
After the funeral, we proceeded to the cemetery where she was interned, and we were there for what I felt like was longer than normal. Considering everybody wanting to visit, I thought, okay, this is fine. We'll stick around for a while. And then after that is when the luncheon occurred down at the church.
Anything that stood out in your mind at the luncheon?
At the luncheon, we all arrived at the church, and while we were there for probably 25 to 30 minutes waiting for Chad to arrive. Didn't want to start, felt it might be inappropriate if he was not there. And I finally had a phone call that he informed me that he was still running behind and that we should just go ahead and get started without him.
I don't know if I missed this, but did you say how long it took for him to eventually get to the luncheon?
I didn't mention it, but I would say probably an additional 15 minutes.
So how late was he for that?
From the time that we arrived until he arrived, I would have to guess approximately 45 minutes.
Did that cause you any concern?
It didn't seem concerning per se, other than we did want to visit. We did want to have some interaction and talk with him.
Did you get that opportunity?
I did not.
Did you try?
I did.
What was the response from Chad?
The response was, we have a memorial to do tomorrow. We're going to have to load everybody up and we got to go back to Idaho. I felt it was pretty abrupt in the exit.
Was that unusual given the long history you had with Chad and his family?
Given the long history, I felt it was unusual.
After Tammy's funeral, did you notice any change or difference in terms of the relationship that you had with Chad and with his children?
He had taken off for a time, and so immediately after the funeral, within the first 30 days, not necessarily, but I didn't know what to expect following the death of a close loved one.
And if we could help the jury understand, how close were you, if you were at all, with Chad's children before the funeral?
Before the funeral, it wasn't uncommon if we wanted to reach out text message or phone call to have interaction and conversation with them.
When you said you attended weddings earlier in Rexburg, was it for Chad's children?
Yes,
So did you regularly attend their life events?
we would make every effort that we could.
And the time that they lived in Springville with you, would you say that you had a close relationship or not?
We did, yes.
So how did that relationship change once the funeral was over? Not necessarily immediately, but in the days and weeks following.
The relationship changed primarily after we had learned of other things that had gone on.
We'll come back to that. At some point after the funeral, did you ever reach out to Chad?
I did.
When was that?
I remember reaching out to him approximately 30 days later to call to see how he was doing. I understood that he had spent some time in Hawaii, and I just wanted to do a follow-up to check in on him to see how he was doing with his wife's passing.
What kinds of things did Chad explain to you in that conversation?
In that conversation, I was informed, or I was actually asked, have I been speaking with Heather Daybell? That was the first thing he mentioned on the phone call.
Did you find that unusual?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because I wanted to talk to him and not about Heather Daybell.
And so the jury understands, was Heather Daybell someone that you had a close relationship with?
No.
How are you related to Heather Daybell, just to put it in perspective?
To put it in perspective, Chad's brother Matt married Heather, making her Chad's sister-in-law. And so at these family functions, if it was extended, we would see her. We were cordial. I didn't have anything against her, but we weren't close by any means.
Did you ever, in that phone call that you made to Chad a month after the funeral, did you ever ask him why he was asking if you talked to Heather?
Conversation was such that he asked if I had been talking to Heather Daybell, and I said no. He had said, well, she's spreading rumors about me in Rexburg, Idaho. So I asked why. And he said, well, it's not important, but while I was in Hawaii, I got married.
Was that the first time that you learned that he'd been married?
Yes,
Were you surprised by that?
very.
Why?
Because it is not common to marry somebody. At that time, I thought within a month, maybe, of a wife passing when he was as close as he was to his spouse.
Did you find it in any way unusual or not with respect to the fact that all this history of years of closeness with Chad that he hadn't told you before this that he got married?
We hadn't had opportunity to talk, so this is the first opportunity to talk. I'm not surprised that that was what he would tell me.
How did you react to that when he said that?
I remember literally standing there and just not knowing what to say.
Did you eventually speak?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to him and ask him about?
I asked him the first thing that came to my mind, which is, who is she?
What did he say?
He told me her name was Lori Ryan.
Had you ever heard that name before?
I had not.
Did he tell you in that conversation when he had married Lori Ryan?
In that conversation, he did not. He just explained who she was.
Did he describe her in any way, tell you anything about her?
He did.
What kinds of things did he tell you?
He explained that she was 5'6", 120 pounds, blonde, worked out, physically fit, hairdresser, and just an amazing individual.
Did he mention anything about her family background?
He had mentioned that her husband had died of a heart attack earlier in 2019.
Did he say anything about her children, if she had children or didn't have children?
I asked him if he had children, and he said that she had some grown children, but that was it.
At that point, had you ever heard of JJ and Tylee's names?
No.
Anything else in that conversation that stood out to you?
In particular, nothing that was of note other than I was still trying to process that he had been married, and I wanted to know when he had gotten married, but he had not shared that with me.
In the days that followed, did you have another conversation with Chad?
We did.
When was the next conversation?
The next conversation was a day or two later. I'm not specific on what day it was.
And what was that conversation about?
The conversation for me was mainly trying to find out information of when did you get married?
So did you call him? Did he call you?
I called him.
Did you call and ask him that question?
I did.
What did he say?
He informed me at that point that he had been married on November 5th.
Did he say anything else about his marriage?
Not a lot about the marriage itself.
I want to back up. Back on November 19th, did Chad ever ask you to do anything about this information that he'd been married?
You know, when he did share that information with me, the one item that was a little surprising was that he asked me not to tell anybody.
Did he give an explanation as to why he didn't want you to tell anybody?
He just said, don't let anyone know. And I informed them he needed to call our in-laws and let them know. And he just didn't give him information. He didn't give a reason.
So then going forward to that phone call, and you had a couple of days later, did he say anything about how his kids had reacted to the marriage?
He did.
What did he say?
He informed me that his kids knew that he was going to be getting married before he went to Hawaii.
And what was your thought at that point?
My thought was, and I did ask him, how did they keep that a secret? And one of the answers the answer troubled me because he said, my kids are good at keeping secrets.
Now, he said a lot in this testimony, but this specific thing in particular, my kids are good at keeping secrets. I didn't know, first of all, maybe you guys did, but I didn't. I did not know that his children knew that he was going to get married before he got married. I wrongly, obviously, assumed that it was a shock to everyone. This was shocking to me. I thought that they didn't know. And I do think that this particular phrase is going to be ringing in the jurors' ears when they listen to what Chad and to what Chad's children, whichever ones they call for the defense, when that I think that is they're going to remember that phrase. My kids are good at keeping secrets. I was blown away when I heard this, you guys. I really was. And I don't even know why. And before I forget, I decided, because of I know that the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on JJ and Tylee testified yesterday, and I listened to all of it. I'm not going to play it. I don't remember the testimony really from Lori's trial, but it made me sad when I heard JJ's and, Tylee's causes of death, but specifically JJ's, because I guess I didn't remember this from Lori's trial, and I remember listening yesterday because I was in the shower, and they were talking about the duct tape, and I kept wondering why there was duct tape on JJ's hands and his arms and his feet. What would be why was that necessary? And then when the ME finally at the end said what JJ's cause of death was, which was asphyxiation by a bag over his head and duct tape on his mouth, I realized that that sweet baby was alive when and that it was used to keep him from moving. And it just breaks my heart. I cannot believe that they did that. But it also made me think of something. Remember how we talked about the way that JJ was buried, and also the way that he was wrapped? And then we find out later that there's a piece of hair caught up in the duct tape, and it was Lori's. It kind of made me think about something, about who did what, and who I believe that Chad is probably the one who helped to bury JJ in that way, and I think he did it because it's the way that maybe Lori wanted it done. I don't know. But to me, and then I thought about like where JJ spent a lot of time over that weekend, because remember, that's when Melanie G and David Warwick and, the whole Casting and Chill podcast crew came through, and how much time JJ at that time was spending with Alex Cox. And it made me wonder if the care that was taken was Alex, not Lori, as far as, the wrapping up and the blanket and all of that stuff. But it's just, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is disgusting, but it's weird because it's hard for me to I feel like gross when I say it, but it does seem like there's the way that JJ's body was treated and the way that Tylee's body was treated were the antithesis of each other. And it just, I don't know, it just seemed like, yes, thank you, Legendary, like a level of compassion after the fact. And it just, I don't know, I don't think we're ever going to know. I think this is going to be one of those trials. And I think that when Lori gets to trial in Arizona, I think that this is going to be one of those trials where all of the questions are not going to be answered. We are still going to have questions. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that a principal player in all of this, that would be, Alex, is no longer alive. And so I think we're all going to have, questions left over. But yeah, I was just thinking about that while he was testifying, and I wanted to talk to you guys about it, but I didn't go over anything pertaining to the Daybell trial yesterday. So I forgot, but I wanted to make sure that while we're going over it tonight and we're talking about all this testimony and stuff, I wanted to mention it. You think so? Cement shoes? See, I'm not so sure about that. I go back and forth. The jury should, but I think that, hey, Crime Crochet and Coffee. I agree. I agree, but I don't know how the jury is going to vote. I don't know. I gotta wait. I gotta wait and see, because I have a feeling that what Pryor is going to do on, when it's his turn is, I do think that he's going to try to say that Tammy's death was that it was natural causes. It wasn't murder. But I think that the purpose of having the kids up there and having them testify is more, I think it's actually going to go towards less of a defense and, that he didn't do these things, and more of like a mitigating factor in a way. I don't think, because I cannot imagine what they're going to say. They're going to get up there and say, oh yeah, my mom, who was so private, we all knew she was sick and none of us encouraged her to go to the doctor. And you know what I'm saying? It just does not, I can't figure out what the point would be, what they're going to what he's going to have them say. But I think after the defense starts to put on their case, I think I'll have a better idea of how I think that the jury might vote. I'm just not sure at this moment. I think the jury's definitely going to find him guilty on every single count. I'm just not 100% convinced that or certain that they will give him the death penalty. There was a question that was up here that I wanted to answer, but I forgot to highlight it. Dadgummit. Oh, Debbie. Okay, so Debbie says, Chad said the kids knew, but did they? Well, obviously we won't know until we hear from the kids, right? We won't know what they said or what they knew, right? But I have a feeling that I believe this guy. I believe that Chad did say that. And I believe that I actually believe that might be the truth. And here's why. Because this particular witness had a pretty close relationship with his nieces and nephews, Chad's children. And so I think that it would be, I think that Chad kind of knew better than to bullshit him, because I feel like this guy seems like a guy that would follow up and ask the kids. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like that might be the truth, that Chad did say that. I mean, I know that, I believe the guy when he says that Chad told him that, but I believe that when Chad, when Chad told Jason Gwilliams that his kids knew, I actually, in a weird way, believe that he was telling the truth. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. We're almost through it. We only got 4 more minutes of this, and then I want to play those the calls with the police. Or
Did he explain what he meant by that at all?
No, he didn't.
Was there anything else of note in that particular conversation?
I wouldn't say there was anything of note. I was just still trying to process that I learned the date of the marriage, which was roughly 2 weeks after the funeral. And I just remember in my mind thinking that's incredibly quick. I didn't feel it appropriate.
When's the next time in your memory that you had contact with Chad?
The next time we had contact with Chad was the day, I want to say it was the day that Tammy was exhumed.
And how did that contact occur?
Contact occurred where he reached out and sent me a text message telling us that he needed to speak with me and my wife, Samantha.
And did you talk to him?
We did.
Did you call him? Did he call you?
I think that when my wife returned home, that she reached out on her phone and put us on speakerphone with him.
Do you recall at least approximately when the day that Tammy was exhumed?
I want to say it was the 13th of December, but I could be wrong.
So when you spoke to him on this occasion, what specifically did you talk about?
There were more conversation between him, my wife, and he, as there was too. He and I, however, we were all on a speakerphone together, and it was a conversation in which he had asked us if we had known that Tammy was exhumed and had we been responsible for that.
And I just want to invite you in these questions. Just speak to what you heard from Chad, not what your wife may have said. Okay.
Sure, of course.
So what did he say about it, if anything?
He wanted to know if we knew that she had been exhumed. He wanted to know if we had any responsibility for her being exhumed. And in both cases, we did not. We did not know anything about it.
Did he explain at all why he wanted to know if you had responsibility for that?
No.
What else did he ask or say to you?
During that conversation, there was a lot, but I probably couldn't testify to much of that at this point.
Did he have any comments that he made to you in regard to Tammy in that conversation?
He did have conversation regarding Tammy.
What did he say about Tammy?
In conversation regarding Tammy, the thing that stood out was that he had mentioned the day of the funeral that she had appeared to him and told him that it was time to move on.
How did you take that?
I took it to mean that if she did have conversation and told him it was time to move on, that likely it didn't mean within 2 weeks.
Why did he mention that? Was there any reason in that conversation?
I don't know why he mentioned that.
Did Heather's name come up again in that phone call?
In that phone call, I don't know. I can't testify that did or not.
Your Honor, given the time, does the court want me to continue or do we stop for a break?
You can continue on another 5 or 10 minutes, Mr. Wixom. Thank you.
Thank you. At some point in time after that, did you ever get a call from law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
When did that occur?
That occurred approximately December 18th, 2019.
And do you remember who it was that contacted you?
I don't specifically remember, but they requested they wanted to meet with me.
And did you do that?
We did. Yes, I did.
Where did you meet with them at?
I met with them at the Springville Police Department.
Did they explain to you what they wanted to meet with you about?
Not until I arrived.
When you got there, what was your understanding of what this was about?
When I arrived, my understanding was that there were 2 missing kids that were affiliated with Lori and Chad,
What were the names of the kids that you learned about?
JJ and Tylee.
Okay, so he goes and he meets with officers, and then yeah, this is it. And sorry, you guys. And he said they tell him, listen, we've got these missing kids. We cannot get a hold of your brother-in-law. And Jason Gwilliam says, hey, listen, I'll call him. And so he does, and he records it. And this is what we're going to listen to. And then I have another video. I don't know if we'll get to it. I might have to do like maybe a part 2 tomorrow. I know I got to get with Allie. I know we want to do some more calls and stuff. Abellis, thank you so much. Oh, well, we love you too. You are part of the Ward Alley Rally fam. I was trying to figure out how to put us together because, but yeah, you're definitely part of the fam, and all of us, here, we got you. Don't you worry. All right. Don't you worry. Hang on a minute. Who's messaging me? Okay. All right. Nobody. All right. Now, it's a email from Cora. You look up one thing on Cora one time, and they be emailing you from now until the end of days. I've unsubscribed like 11 billion times. I guess I'm going to have to be more serious about it. Abellis, you did not have to do that. Thank you so much. Well, y'all know what this means. We're going to have to see the video. It's all right. We need a little palate cleanser. I got a better members video I'm working on for you guys. Just, you know, as a side quest, but I like this one for now, but there'll be a better one coming. So here you guys go. Thank you so much, Abellis. I appreciate that. So generous.
Gossip, blah blah.
No malicious intent or effort was towards it. No malicious.
We all do a little mad sometimes.
I do so enjoy Darth Vader. Listen, I know he's on the dark side and he's done some questionable things, but listen, he was led astray. Okay. The Emperor promised some things, and he was worried, and he just, I think old Darth Vader is very misunderstood, You're stuck with us now, Legendary. All right, so we're going to listen to this call. Let me go. Yeah, okay, perfect. It's going a little fast, so it's not going to take as long. And here we go.
Since we had a break. I believe that one of the last things you said about this phone call was that you had asked law enforcement to record it. Is that what I heard?
Correct.
Why did you ask that from law enforcement?
I wanted to know if there was going to be any answers that would help to find the two missing kids that they were inquiring about. And I thought it would be helpful that if there was information given that would assist in that, I thought it'd be good to record it.
And in the conversation, who literally participated in the conversation?
There was myself, Chad Daybell, and Lori Daybell.
Nobody else comes into the conversation?
I don't believe so.
If in fact, have you recently heard that conversation?
Recently, yes.
If you did have the opportunity to listen to the very early portion of the conversation, would that be something that you could recognize and identify?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state's proposed Exhibit 308, which is a recording of that phone call. We would seek to have the opportunity to play the first portion for this witness to help identify it. And for clarity, we will be offering it under 801(b)(2).
All right, if you want to play just a very limited amount, enough to lay some foundation for the witness, and then don't publish anything more than that, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Judge. I would ask for 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, Judge Bev does breathe harder than Darth Vader, and she does it like really abruptly. At least Darth Vader is like talking, and then the oxygen's got to kick in, so you hear that.
And Your Honor, I don't know if Madam Clerk needs to do anything. I did connect the HDMI, so I intend to play it through so she did.
But Judge Bev is just like in the middle of somebody questioning. It's so abrupt and rude. Here we go.
Sir, I'm going to play a very small portion of the phone call and then ask you if you're able to identify it.
Hello. Chad, what's going on? You got, all right, what the heck is going on? I got people coming down from Rex.
Mr. Wixom, I think that's probably enough.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Gwilliam, do you recognize the voices in that call?
Yes.
Do you recognize that recording?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that that's the actual phone call that you engaged in that you've already been testifying to the jury about?
I believe that it is.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to admit State's Exhibit 308.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 308 is admitted, and you may publish if you request, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you, Your Honor, I do. So I'm going to continue to play this call. I may stop at points and ask you some questions.
for wanting to talk to us.
What?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk to you guys and yeah, I have people wanting to question and talk to me about you and what you got going on and I'm like, okay, why? And so I thought I need to reach out and find out.
Everybody's there, so let me just put that speaker.
Okay, sure.
So go ahead and state what is happening so she can hear.
I have people calling me from Rexburg saying, we want to bring you in for questioning and talk to you about what's been going on and we're trying to find some kids. And what do you know about it? And I'm going, I don't know anything. What? Why? What? Okay, no, I don't know what's going on. And so
Yesterday, they actually went to Leah's house and tried to threaten her. We're not fully sure what they're trying to accomplish. It's mainly one detective in Rexburg.
Okay.
So finally, we got a hold of an attorney, and that's pretty much where it goes from here. It's just,
Yeah, just everything to the attorney and stuff. Okay.
yeah, just we can text you his name and.
Yeah, probably should.
Mr. Gwilliam, I'm going to pause there. You just heard yourself in the audio saying you probably should contact an attorney. Did I get that correct?
On that one, they had mentioned, or he had mentioned to me that they had an attorney they retained. And I wanted to get the name of the attorney so that I could then pass it on to law enforcement. And that was the purpose of that.
Okay. And the voices that we've heard so far, we've heard your voice. Just for clarity, who's the other voice?
The other voice is Chad Daybell.
Say, who you need to.
You know me, I don't deal with a lot of this stuff very well. I'm just like, okay, I'm a simple dude. What's going on? What do you guys want to do? What's happening? What's going on?
Your route. I don't know how you would even be involved.
I have no idea. They're just trying to go through and just kind of see if I know anything about anything going on. And I'm like, no, why would I? What? Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. Well, we're trying to find two kids that along with Lori, and we just want to know if they're being, sheltered down in Utah. And I'm like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. So is there kids that are not involved or what are they talking about? So I'll have a clue if they show up at my house.
If they show up, you can just give them the attorney's name and say, we're not talking to you without an attorney.
Okay.
Because
No,
there,
well,
it's my sister-in-law. It's just a bunch of people that are starting trouble for no reason.
It's separate from the Tammy situation.
Mr. Gwilliam, you just heard that reference to the Tammy situation. What did you take that to mean from Chad when he said that?
When he said the Tammy situation, I can only, the fact that he had buried her soon, married Lori as quickly as he did. I don't know there would be a situation, and I don't know what he means by situation at that point.
Would it be fair to say at that point in time that you didn't have any knowledge of any investigation related to Tammy?
I didn't know of anything.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted you guys to listen to Lori is because Chad puts the phone on speaker so that Lori can chime in. He couldn't just say to his brother-in-law, who he knows and has an established relationship with, he couldn't just say, listen, this is some family, which would have been a lie, but obviously, he couldn't just say, look, this is some family shit that's, left over from, this has to do with Lori and, it's just some family stuff, right? He couldn't just relay that information. He had to put Lori on the phone. If anybody is wondering or was on the fence or not sure about the roles in between Chad and Lori, it was, in my opinion, and there's little tidbits, a little trail along the way, a little breadcrumbs along the way of stuff that just shows that they were hooting cahooters, that it was 50-50. It was absolutely, in my opinion, it was absolutely 50-50. And this, in my opinion, is one of the things that, proves that, is the fact that she had to be on that phone call too. Why? I don't know. I have no idea. Ridiculous. But here we go.
And had Chad ever discussed anything like that with you in any of the prior phone calls?
Let me backtrack slightly. Possibly the Tammy situation could be in reference to him calling previously to ask about her exhumation.
They're trying to combine it all together.
Well, do you want to send me that attorney's number? Do you want to text it to me or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be helpful, I'm sure. So,
they're just grasping at straws. I still feel Heather Daybell's behind it.
okay.
Just, she's an evil woman and
It's her in-law that's this
yeah,
officer. Who?
detective hope.
Yeah. Did he call?
Just to inquire, at that point in time, had Heather Daybell contacted you about any of this?
At that point in time, I don't know that Heather and I had conversation about that. I can't recall.
You?
No,
Was it just-
no, he didn't call me. It was another individual. And so, yeah, that's where I'm like, okay, this is getting a little bit weird here. And so I thought I'd reach out to you to find out, what's going on. And so,
So we pretty much blocked them. It's a simple situation, but we just can't tell you because then you'd have to be involved.
Yeah.
no, I get it. That's fine. So at that point, they're talking about bringing down like a host of like FBI people involved and stuff.
You just heard Chad describe the situation as a simple situation.
Correct.
And he said, I can't tell you because I don't want to get you involved.
That was what was stated.
And you said, okay, I understand. What did you mean by that comment?
At that point, I felt that it possibly was a smaller situation. I didn't know what the situation was. And so at that stage, I think he was just trying to keep me out of the loop. I'm like, I don't, well, I don't need that. It's Christmas. So, that's where I'm just going, all right, that's interesting. So, okay.
Well, if you don't know anything, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
You don't know anything.
No, I don't know anything. And so that's good news at that point in time. So, okay.
I don't know how I would have done that other than Heather. She knows our friendship.
Oh, sure. No, of course. And so, yeah. And that's why I was like, yeah, maybe I better get a heads up about what they might have to say or what's going to happen or what they're talking about doing. And so if you've got that name on that, I'll just say, hey, look, you know what, you may just want to go talk to these people. I don't need to, be involved in the whole thing. So
I'll text you the attorney's name. He's a calm, collected individual. We're happy with him, but
gotcha. So
It's-
on that, it just,
Everybody that we know, it's just so dumb.
so on that, is this an attorney that's just, is he out where you're at? Is he local? How would I, if I needed to?
he's in Rexburg.
He's a Rexburg attorney? Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
It's Pittsburgh police who are being whatever.
yeah, they've
It's
gone,
Heather's in-law
right.
is this detective that's bugging everybody. So
They seem to think that there's stuff that's being hidden and that they're wanting to try to get to the bottom of what's being hidden. And I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It kind of catches you off guard when you have them call you up and start chatting with you. And you're going, okay, I don't know anything about this stuff here. And so, yeah.
This is a different issue that doesn't involve any Douglases.
Okay. Well, but that being the case, that's fine. I just thought,
that you're being bothered.
no, that's fine.
Being bothered.
I think they're just trying to,
Just to be clear, Mr. Gwilliam, who are the Douglases that are being referenced?
that would be in reference to my wife's family. We all lived within a close proximity to each other.
Is Douglas your wife and Tammy's maiden name?
Yes, it is. Just go down every possible route and road that they can, I suppose. And so,
And so if they happen to bother Ron and Phyllis or anybody, just the same attorney.
okay. Well, if you give me that information, that would be helpful with regards to that. So, that
Yeah,
would-
I'll text it to
Bartholik. Sean Bartholik.
Yeah, it's a
is his
weird
name.
name.
what, Sean, what? Bart?
Bartholic.
Oh, Bartholic. Okay. Bart. Yeah, that is a little different.
Same name. But
Yeah, that works out just fine. So,
this detective is Matt and Heather's daughter's father-in-law.
okay. So there's a relation to
No,
Heather with regards to
Paid
everything.
off or what? He is
We don't
just
know if
so
he's getting paid
persistent.
off or what, but he's bugging everybody we know for
It's
no reason.
basically
And he
a-
won't even call us. He doesn't call us ever to ask us any questions. He's just trying to get information from anybody else that will give him information.
Sweet. So should I tell him to call you and you'll give him the information so they'll leave me alone?
Yes.
All right. Maybe I'll do that. If they say come over, I'll say, hey, you got their number, call them. And so
It's like he's circling us rather than talking directly.
So he's
Exactly.
basically taking every angle possible and trying to come in and chat with you guys rather than just saying, hey, pick up the phone and call you and you'll chat with him. Nice.
I'll change this number.
What now?
And Garth gave him my number 3 weeks
They've
ago.
had the
Oh,
numbers.
no kidding. Well,
And he just won't call me.
I'll just tell him, pick up the phone and call the guy. Hello. It's not that hard. Reach out and touch someone. So
I'll probably just start with the attorney's
I'll
number.
just say, here, you know what? Go talk to Mark or whatever you are at. And so anyway,
Yeah.
so
You can say that. You can say that we've been instructed by our family attorney to not speak to any police, and here's his number. You can contact him, and then he can cover the whole entire family.
okay.
Jason, at that point, from your perspective, did you see any need not to talk to police?
I did not see a need for them not to communicate with the police.
Did you personally have any concerns if the police were going to interact with you about this issue?
No.
We heard the name Ron and Phyllis. Who is that?
Ron and Phyllis are Chad and I's in-laws.
No, that's fine. So you guys,
By our family attorney. This is his name, so here you go.
well, no, that's fine. That's what I'll do at that point.
Just all your help.
And then I'll just turn around and say, by the way, if you want to just pick up the phone and call him, why don't you? So
Right.
anyway, that's,
That's what I told them.
oh, did he? So are the kids, what are their plans for Christmas then? Are they just gonna be hunkered down? Are they back in Rexburg at home?
Emma's gonna stay. Garth and Leah are gonna go on a little vacation.
Okay. Are they,
At that point in time, Mr. Gwilliam, when you said, are the kids going to be back in Rexburg, which kids were you referring to?
I was referring to my nieces and nephews, Chad's children.
At that point in time, did you have any information or ideas where JJ and Tylee were?
I had no idea.
Did you have any information at that point about where Chad and Lori were?
I did.
Did it come from Chad?
I don't recall who it came from, whether it was through him or through his children. I don't recall.
going before, we were talking, I do that trip every year that I take the kids on.
Right.
That I just get away beforehand. I actually thought about going up to the hardware ranch, and I was gonna call Garth and say, hey, everybody else is married. Why don't you come go to the hardware ranch and have a square or something with us?
I think they're gonna leave the 23rd, so
Oh, okay. That would put him,
then
Well-
Seth's gonna head out to. I think Garth's actually going down this weekend to.
I did hear he was coming down. He was gonna be down. They didn't make it last weekend. I guess it snowed quite a bit, or I don't know what
Yeah.
happened. I don't want to drive the Molat Pass in a snowstorm either, so,
Car.
yeah.
So anyway, in terms of Tammy's autopsy or whatever, I did talk to. You probably heard from Ron and Phyllis how that went.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't. Samantha did, and I haven't been home to get a chance to chat with her about it all yet, and so,
One day last Wednesday, a week ago. I haven't heard a thing.
oh, no
That's just
kidding.
because I have not heard a thing. If Lori and I didn't hear through relatives, we would have no idea.
No, and that surprised me, because someone had said, hey, go check out the cemetery, and I'm going, okay, why? I don't go to the cemetery. I'm not the former Chad Daybell, the guy that digs up. And so I go over and I'm like, where's the grass? And of course, Samantha at that point, okay, what's going on? I don't know. I don't know. So when we talked to you last week, I hadn't heard anything. And then a couple of days later, people are going, hey, there's stuff going on around here. You may want to go take a look. Okay, that'd be good to know. So anyway, yeah. What do you got planned for Christmas then? Anything good? Did I lose you? Oh, you there?
Hello?
Oh, there you are. I say, as far as Christmas goes, what do you got planned then on that?
We're gonna stay where we're at for now.
I think it's breaking up on me. What was that?
We're not going to Idaho.
No, you don't want to go to Idaho, so that's for sure. He's going to be hanging out doing I'm just curious to know how Mele Kalikimaka Hawaiian Christmas works out. So I guess I'm just jealous more than anything else. So anyway, did I lose you? I think I lost you. I lost you.
Mr. Gwilliam, I'm just, again, having listened to the full audio, is there any reason for you to think that the audio was altered in any way?
I don't believe it was.
You could capture the full conversation.
Yes, sir.
What did you mean when you told Chad, you don't want to go to Idaho? What was your reference about that?
He had informed me that basically he didn't want to have to talk to cops face to face. He'd rather just them call. And so I just making small talk at that point.
At that point in time, or any time subsequent to that, I'm sorry, did you ever talk to Chad again?
That was the last communication Chad and I ever had.
Ever had? There's
Yeah.
no other communication. Why is that?
Couldn't tell you.
Did you make efforts to reach out?
There was another time after the first of the year that I made an effort to make a phone call and it was unsuccessful.
The number that you called, was that the same phone number that you had been calling for this call, for example?
Yes,
When you say unsuccessful, did nobody answer? Were there voicemails? I mean,
I couldn't testify to, I can't recall.
You just didn't contact them.
Right.
Do you ever recall any follow-up missed calls back from Chad to your phone, any emails, any text messages?
No.
And at some point, did you learn of where JJ and Tylee had been found?
I did.
Your Honor, I have no further questions. And for the record, I have State's Exhibit 308 as played. I'd like to give back to the marshal. Mr. Gwilliam, just
All right, so there you go. that was the call that he recorded with the police. Now, prior on his cross-examination, made a huge deal out of who was in attendance at this meeting that Jason Gwilliams had with police. And it happened in Utah, but, people from Rexburg were there, the FBI was there, and he made a huge deal about who was there, as if it's some conspiracy against Chad. And it makes very little sense, actually. And I guess when you don't have a whole lot, that's what you go for. The truth of the matter is, they explained it already. Heather Daybell's, she's married to Chad's brother, Matt. Their daughter is her father-in-law is a police officer, but nobody was trying to set Chad up. This ridiculous. And I have to say, yes, Patricia, there was some weird, awkward laughing. It's like, maybe it's because I know how the story ends, but it just seemed to me that call was awkward and tense, and that nobody really wanted to be on that call. Jason didn't want to make the call. Chad didn't want to take the call. The only one who seemed oblivious to everything was Lori. Although she has like that sing-songy voice, and I think that sometimes that detracts from the actual words that are coming out of her mouth, because of her tone. She was irritated as well. She said it was stupid. She said they're bothering me for no reason. Poor persecuted Lori, But yeah, I thought that it was a little awkward for a family that was, so close at one time. And I do think that everybody that knew Chad and Tammy, whether they were family or whether they were friends of the couple, I think when Chad hurried, they were all taken aback and shocked that Tammy died in the first place. Then there was the rush to have the funeral. And then there was finding out that he and Lori had gotten married. And I know that they did the math in their brains and were like, this is a man, like Chad's family knew that they struggled with money. Everybody has money struggles, but Chad had money struggles. And now all of a sudden he's rushing off to Hawaii to get married. Tickets to Hawaii aren't cheap, especially. And see, this is where my brain would go. I would be thinking that they had to have planned a trip to Hawaii, because the further away you purchase the tickets from the time that you want to leave, the more likely you are to get a better deal. If I were to say, okay, today is May 10th, and I want to fly out of Florida to Hawaii tomorrow with that's not enough notice for the airline, my ticket prices would be ridiculous. But if I waited and I said, okay, I'm going to go fly out, in a couple of weeks or even, a month out, it would be substantially lower. So, you know what I'm saying? I would be doing the math in my brain and I would be thinking, you know what, something ain't right. And I think just because it's getting late and I've already kept you guys for 2 hours, what I think I'm going to do is I think we're going to go over Samantha's testimony tomorrow. How do you guys feel about an afternoon stream? I haven't done a nooner in a while. How do you guys feel about that? And then I was thinking, I don't know, what do you guys, I want to do a Patreon live tomorrow night at about 7 Eastern. What do you guys want to talk about tomorrow in Patreon? Yeah, let's do a nooner. All right. Okay. That's what we'll do. So I will come on tomorrow at about noon Eastern time, and we'll go through Samantha's, because I heard and I did see some of her testimony, not all of it, but I did hear that she did a phenomenal job. And I really want to give her the, I want to give her testimony the attention that it deserves. And after I've been yapping for like a couple of hours, sometimes I'm too much for me and I get tired of hearing me. So I want to make sure we give it. So that's what we'll do. We'll go over Samantha's testimony tomorrow. All right. That is a plan. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. I probably, it's Sunday is Mother's Day. I don't know. I'll get with Allie and figure out what we're going to do as far as more of the video visits and calls. But I probably am going to, I don't know if I'll be live on Sunday. If I am not, it's okay, because I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll do an afternoon stream. But I want to thank you guys all for being here. And if I don't see you tomorrow because, you're busy or you can't make it or whatever, I want to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day. And tell you, and I can't even talk. Happy Mother's Day. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here and supporting me. Your support means the world, and I'm just grateful for it. So you guys have a great rest of your Friday night, and I will see you tomorrow afternoon. All right. Bye.